This. Right, good morning, everybody. So, as it's February and the month of love, we're going to do a little bit of facts about Valentine's Day. The ancient Romans celebrated Valentine's Day on the 15th of February, and it was a pagan fertility festival. At the end of the 5th century, the then Pope Gelasius officially declared St. Valentine's Day on the 14th of February. And it wasn't until the Middle Ages that the holiday became associated with love and romance, a tradition that first started from the common belief in England and France that birds started their mating season on February the 14th. The first Valentine poem was sent in 1415, and it was from a French duke who was in prison at the time, and he sent it to his wife. Now, anybody who does the accounts for florists, nearly 250 million roses are grown each year just for Valentine's Day sales. However, more money is spent on jewellery than any other gift. And finally, nearly 6 million couples get engaged on Valentine's Day each year. And the cynic in me wonders how many of them actually get married. And again, how many actually get divorced? That's just me and the romantic in me. So, without further ado, I'm going to go to Sarah first this morning. I'm going to chase it up a little bit, and I'm going to go to Sarah for HMRC updates.
Okay, all right, thank you, Caroline.
Put you on the spot.
Right, so I haven't particularly got updates, but what I am going to do is ask for your participation. Tomorrow, I've got a workshop with HMRC all day, and I've got three particular areas of workshop that I'm contributing in. And if anybody else has got any opinions or points of view or anything they'd like to share, I would really love to hear it, because I can bring those comments with me tomorrow. So I'm going to read out the three areas. If you have a think, if you can put them in the chat or email them into Ali. Ali, can you just put in the chat the marketing app email, and then you can pick up any emails and forward them to me later today. So the areas up for discussion tomorrow are simplifying services, transforming tax for our customers, working together to simplify the tax system, and working together to help small businesses get their tax right. I will pop that in the chat actually when we're on to the next speaker too, just so if you come across any thoughts or think of anything as you go along. Just some of the thoughts which I have, which I've just shared as a prompt. Any ideas also in terms of trying to make small business owners, help them to get their tax right. I think as agents we need more access, not less access, to be able to support them. There seems to be a step away from allowing us to have direct access, or having to get our clients to actually give us access, and half the time they don't understand it or they don't have the information as well. So right at the beginning, that's difficult. Another thing I have a problem with is the message that software companies are sending out. There seems to be a marketing message with many of the online companies saying, pay for the subscription and this by magic your accounts are done, which I think is a wrong message. And I think there should be some kind of regulation around that too. So there's just some ideas, but I really, really would love to hear your thoughts, because obviously I've got a open window to share that tomorrow. What else have I got going on? There is the other thing I'm going to pop in the chat while we'll move on to the next speaker too, is there is an actual link on the HMRC website which will email you with any webinars that are coming up. So any of the HMRC free webinars on any of the topic, they've actually got a central point on their website now, so I'll pop that in the chat. And there's also a pension webinar coming up shortly too. And they're with the pension regulator, I actually think they're quite good, the information they share too. So again, I'll pop that in the chat. I'll get you to read it all out shortly, Caroline.
Lovely. Sam's going to, Sam is going to add the links to an email as well.
I can send them out. The links out if you want, rather than read them out to everybody.
Okay, all right, well, I'll do that. I'll send them over to you.
Okay.
So really my main thing today is I want to hear feedback. Anything you want to share, any ideas you have, any problems you have, that would be amazing.
Can I just say, Carol's already put in the chat, HMRC helplines really need improving. Had a number of clients that couldn't get through self-assessment payment, so did I. Phone lines prior to the 31st of January and will now get fined.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And also we've had news from through the CIS forum too, that they've actually completely banned any phone calls coming in, which is just not helpful whatsoever. So I should be raising that too.
I'm struggling as well to register people for new payroll.
Right.
I had a new client come and I had to ask him to actually go on and register himself.
But exactly, that's not helpful, isn't it? When they're coming
as an agent, it just wouldn't let me.
No, we're having that. We're finding that problem the whole time, and the whole point if you're trying to support business owners is to be able to do this, all that admin for them. You know,
yeah,
and I've been their point of contact with HMRC.
I mean, I ended up sitting with him while he did it, but it's not ideal.
No, it's not. No, it's really not. So
Yeah.
we've got some other comments.
We have totally agree with helplines and marketing. Agree. Software company, the client ended up coming to us and the whole thing is a complete mess. Yeah, I've had that with QuickBooks.
Yeah, I think we've all had those rescue jobs, as I call them.
Yeah, client authorization process needs updating as the codes get lost in the post and the digital process many clients can't handle. I agree with Sarah. I'm not an agent, couldn't get it set up years ago. So frustrating, especially as the client just didn't understand or pass on the information needed, so let the accountants do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, quite a few struggling for payroll.
Yeah, Rachel, really struggling registering clients for payroll. Takes weeks to get registration through. Tied to register. I actually don't know what that abbreviation is, Rachel. TRONC.
Tried to register
and 6 months later, still not done.
no, I don't.
Emma James, I agree with Carol. The helplines really need attention. Closing agent lines to complex queries only pre the self-assessment deadline wasn't good enough, particularly as each agent seemed to be deciding what was and wasn't complex. Response to letters is poor. I'm still receiving responses once sent in 2021. We're also sending out letters that are incorrect and cause distress to clients, but then are incredibly difficult to resolve the issues. No, exactly the same thing. We just need to have more access to HMRC to resolve these issues on behalf of clients. Rachel also struggling CIS calls to HMRC. As I said, they're closing those helplines. Totally agree with helplines and marketing of software. Yeah. Olwen, Sarah, HMRC needs to do the part in helping small business. My client tried to register VAT in June 22 and never receives their VAT number until January 23. Exactly. The lag is too much as well.
Rachel says TRONC is the tip scheme for cafes.
All right. Okay. Oh, maybe I do know that. Sorry. So,
I didn't know that. Every day's a school day.
Yeah. Emma James, yes, why the authorization goes to sent by post, although the VAT one isn't much improved, as I've had a few clients who cannot see the authorization. Okay, brilliant. Thank you. If everyone keeps putting that in the chat,
can you read that chat, Sarah? Because I feel like we could be here for an hour.
So yeah, exactly. That's fine. If everyone keep putting in there, I'll pull out those points and take them with me tomorrow. But anyway, back to you, Caroline.
All right, lovely. Thank you. So I'm going to go directly now to Dan Sherrard-Smith. I can find him.
Hi, Caroline.
You're there. You're there, Dan. Hi. Do you want to share your screen?
I'm not a kind of one for presentations, so I think this will just be a kind of talk, if that's
okay. So Dan, who everybody's already heard, is from MyMotherTree, and MyMotherTree's mission is to make it effortless for you to go green and save money on all life's choices. They launched the UK's first money carbon calculator in June 2022, and the impact has been staggering. For example, £5,000 in a current account with Barclays produces almost 1.5 tonnes of carbon per year. I'm shocked at that.
Yeah, it was surprising when we discovered that as well. Shall I sort of take over from here?
Yeah.
Caroline, is that?
Please, if you could.
Great. Well, it's fantastic to be here. And yeah, as Caroline said, I'm Dan. I'm the founder of MyMotherTree. our mission is to make it effortless to go green on all life's choices, but we started with finance because that has one of the biggest impacts, as Caroline's just outlined. And I guess given, this is a coffee morning with finance professionals, then possibly I'm talking to the converted. Before setting up MotherTree, I was on the founding team of Look After My Bills. So we were automatically switching your energy bills to cheaper tariffs whenever your bill went up. Y Combinator bats, we had the best ever deal on Dragon's Den, and we grew that within 3 years to almost 1 million customers. And in terms of this chat, so I'll share a little bit about me, and then we'll get into MotherTree and the power of your money and what you can do about it. And we should be finished within about 15 minutes, so we'll keep it relatively short. So a bit about me. So I was born just north of London, but I grew up in South Wales on the beaches of Gower, which I like to say are the best beaches in the world. My wife says are the best beaches in my world. And when I was 12, I remember really clearly sitting in a geography lesson and learning about climate change. And in a really clear memory, the kind of graphs on the board and the pictures of the glaciers. And that must have been, 2000, maybe 2001. And it just seemed really crazy even then that, we knew the impact of fossil fuels, the impact that they were having on our planet, yet we were doing nothing to stop it. And the thought that, one day we would lose the beaches of Gower was a real heartbreaker for me, but I didn't know what to do about it then. And so fast forward 2 years ago when my last company, Look After My Bills, sold, I had the chance to think, what do I really want to do with my time? Where do I want to dedicate the next kind of 6 months to a year and ideally beyond that? And my boy had just been born, so I've got a 2-year-old boy. And I knew that one day he's going to look me in the eye and he's going to ask me, once you realize the severity of the climate crisis, what did you do about it? And I want to be able to look back at him and said, I did everything I could with the skills that I had. And so I started researching the drivers of the climate crisis, and it became pretty clear to me pretty quickly, this is the biggest challenge humanity's ever faced. And I'm actually empowered by that. I'm empowered to be one of the humans on the earth right now who get to be part of that solution. Some generations get war, some get to go to the moon. Well, we get the biggest challenge humanity's ever faced. And I'm kind of all in for being part of that solution. And so about 1.5 years ago, I started just listening to people, talking to them one-on-one, running focus groups, just to understand how people approached the climate crisis and what they were doing about it. And I set up something called the Climate Challenge, which was a 5-day event, just discover ways to live a greener lifestyle. So we went vegan for the day, we got rid of single-use plastic, we found our carbon footprints. And the really big revelation for me was the impact of our money. We looked at what our banks were doing with it and also where our pensions were invested. And, for me included, 2% of my pension was in BP, 1% was in weapons, 1% in tobacco, just things that I would never choose to put money to on a regular basis. And yet my pension was doing exactly that. And at the same time, having realized our carbon footprints, so that's our diets, our flights, our energy, it felt like something was missing, which was what's the carbon footprint of our money, our banks and our pensions. And so in December 2021, I set about building the money carbon calculator. And the results, as Caroline's already mentioned, were a real shock. The UK average citizen is likely to produce about 10 tons of carbon from their lifestyle footprint, and they produce about the same from where they bank and their pension provider. So it's also about 10 tons. And that was really mind-blowing to me. So half of our kind of carbon footprint, and we hardly ever talk about it. And that's really why I set up MotherTree. And our goal is to switch £1 billion into the green economy by 2025. And so in terms of sort of why I call it MotherTree, and then we'll get onto the impact of our money. So in terms of the name, so this was something that a Canadian scientist called Susan Simard discovered, which is she realized that trees in the Canadian forest, and actually it applies worldwide, but trees in the Canadian forest were passing nutrients to each other via the mycelium, which is that kind of web of mushrooms on the forest floor. And I absolutely love this idea of connection and support. And it turns out that the mother trees are the most connected of the trees. They're the ones that share and support the most. And so that's what we're trying to do at MotherTree is support and share and make sure we're building to this kind of green economy. So in terms of the impact of our money, so after working on the money carbon calculator for 6 months, we launched in June 2022 officially. And the idea is, in the same way that we have a carbon calculator for our lifestyle, we should have one for our money, because our banks and pension providers invest that cash one way or another. So with pension providers, it's invested in stocks and shares and funds, and with and other pieces as well, like currency. And with our banks, our money is held on the retail side, so savings accounts, current accounts, but it's an endorsement of their investment side. And the calculator takes a proportional approach. So it looks at your bank and your pension provider and where those institutions are investing, and it builds up the carbon footprint of the bank and attributes some of that footprint to you based on how much you have in that bank. So as Caroline said, that's how we get to the £5,000 equaling 1.5 tons of carbon per year. It stacks up really quickly. But the great news is that switching is easier than ever. The majority of banks and all of the banks that we recommend on the site are signed up to the current account switch guarantee. And that means you complete 2 forms. Like when I realized the impact of my money, I did this, and I can vouch that it takes 5 minutes. And then it takes 7 days to switch your bank, and all the direct debits, all the standing orders are moved over for you. But that's not all. Our money has a really big impact beyond the carbon. And I'll just give 2 examples. So the first, there's an opportunity actually for better returns. So this is, no financial advice, and only fools predict the future. But looking at the last 5 years, green pensions have outperformed the default pensions, and our analysis shows by about 15%. And just to be clear, like if you are on a workplace pension scheme, you are most likely placed into the default pension fund if you haven't had a look at it. So it's worth sort of just dipping in there and seeing what's going on. And then on the banking side, Triodos, one of the greenest banks, has beaten Barclays every single year they've been in the UK market on interest rate. So the more we research this area, the more we realize it really pays to go green. And then the second example, and something it might be worth thinking about is what kind of world do you want to retire into? So this was a question that really struck me. Is it a world where we can't go out during the summer because it's too hot and we can't swim in the sea because of the pollution? Or one where, yeah, it's hotter, but we can still enjoy, the beautiful beaches, the best beaches in the world, and our cities have fresh air? And our choice of investment, where we put our money and where our pension is going, is arguably the biggest driver of this. Because what we fund today are the companies that we're most likely to get tomorrow. I appreciate that's a really simplified comparison, but I think when you really get down to it, that is kind of certainly from our research what we see is going on. And a kind of simple way to look at this is, do you want your money going to fossil fuel companies like the 2% of my pension, or do you want to be funding wind farms and solar panels and affordable housing? And you literally have that choice. So what can you do about it? Well, the first thing I'd say is find out the impact of your money, hopefully using MyMotherTree.com, but there are other great sites out there like bank.green. And if it's not aligned with your values, then look at options for switching. And if you'd like to hear more, I'll just leave you with one final point, which is we continue to run the climate challenge, that group who discover ways to go greener over 5 days. And over the year, it's been well over a year since we launched it, we've really whittled down the challenges. So it focuses on the biggest impact you can have with just 30 minutes or less each day over 5 days. And we go really deep on things like banking and pensions. So it's free to join. So if you're interested, do head to the website and sign up, and hopefully see a few of you there. Thanks so much for listening. I think that was about 10 minutes, not 15. There you go.
No, thanks for that, Dan. Lee said I recently changed my pension fund as the ethical fund did better than the high risk one over the last 3 years.
There we go. Live example right there.
Yeah. And Shahuka says, I appreciate what you have done, but in my opinion, the trend of climate change and other recent changes to UK economy is just a window dressing.
Yeah, I really appreciate Dan's effort. I mean, that takes hell of an amount of work and dedication. But looking at the figures that I've been working on recently, we got 32 million cars in UK run on diesel, and 18 or call it 19 million cars running on petrol. And every year, well, 22, 23, government's going to get 25 billion pounds of fuel duty from that. Now, all this, what do I call it, you know, the green energy, electric, so on and so forth, is not going to compensate, A, for the government loss of income in terms of fuel duty.
Can I just interrupt you because I don't want to get political.
No, it's nothing to do with politics at all. It's about economy. It's about real facts. What I meant by window dressing is we all can do certain things like Dan has done and many others have done, but it's not enough. We have to put this to the government, to our MPs, to those who make decisions. Right? So how can one reduce 45 million cars that runs on diesel and petrol out of the equation within 5 years? It's impossible. We don't have enough electric chargers.
Okay, so sorry to interrupt. This is, I take your point on board, but this isn't the forum to share that with. The point today is that I think that Dan's actually just showing that, you know, collectively, if we each continue to contribute, then, you know, the world's a better place as a result of that. But
totally.
Yeah, I think we need to move on now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sharu, more than happy to chat about that. Absolutely up for discussion there. Really interesting.
Yeah. I've got another link. So I'm just going to read this out because Dan's put it in. So you can find more about climate change at www.mymothertree.com / why have I got things there? The-climate-challenge. Thank you, Dan. Quite a few got coming in saying thank you, Dan. So if there's no questions, Dan, I'm going to move on. But thank you very much.
Thank you, Dan.
Thanks,
Phil. Really interesting. I know Sam's been working with you quite a lot as well. So yeah, a lot of what you speak about will be adopting internally.
Thanks, thank you. So now we're going to go to Samantha O'Sullivan, who is the policy lead for the CIPP. Are you there, Samantha?
I am. Thank you very much.
Excellent. Good morning. So following payroll developments highlighted in the January coffee morning, Samantha's going to cover advantages of payrolling versus P11 process and registering ahead of the new tax year. Is that correct, Samantha?
It is, right? And you have to forgive me. I'm not a Zoomer, so I'm unsure if I can share my screen. Caroline, have you got the slides?
I don't, but I'm going to allow you to share your screen.
Okay.
You should be able to share it now.
Right,
hopefully.
Let's have a go at doing this. Okay, so can everybody see that?
Yes.
Yes, all good.
Okay, so thank you very much for inviting me to come along this morning and to talk about benefits in kind and payrolling benefits. It's kind of a bit of a buzzword that's happening in the industry right now. So wanting to shed some light on it for you all today. So if we get cracking then, I'm sure as an individual, you might receive a benefit in kind from your employer, or as a service provider, when you're running payroll for your clients, you'll be fully aware that there are a number of benefits that employers can offer to their staff. So I've put a few examples on there. So we'll have some typical ones like childcare or pension schemes or pensions. You've also got things like season ticket loans. Now, I don't mean a season ticket to go and watch your favourite football club at the weekend. The season ticket loans are for travel. So bus tickets, train tickets. And one thing we're seeing at the CIPP at the moment is we're all fully aware that we're going through a cost of living crisis. And employers want to be helping as much as possible. However, the cost of living crisis is also impacting those employers. So it's not just as simple as giving everybody a pay rise, but what a lot of employers are doing now is they're looking at their overall package. So their overall remuneration package of what they can provide to employees. So it might be that there could be one-off bonuses. It could be that they change their pension schemes to salary sacrifice to help people out. Always be mindful that if anything's going under salary sacrifice, we're always staying compliant with national minimum wage regulations. So just an overview to start us off. And obviously, if we're providing a benefit, we know that has to be reported to HMRC. There's essentially 3 ways that you can report a benefit to HMRC. And I'll go through them in order that they're shown on the slide. So you can payroll benefits. That means that you are adding a taxable element of pay to a person's pay period, and it's payrolled, so you report it through the FPS. I'm going to go a little bit more into pros and cons after this slide. The second way to do it is you use the traditional P11D process. So whether your software does that for you or you do it old school with a pen and paper, that's the traditional P11D route. Another option that employers have is that if they don't want their employees to suffer the tax of having that benefit provided, they can add a benefit that they provide to a PAYE settlement agreement, or what we know as a PSA. So they're essentially the 3 different options. HMRC are trying to get people into payrolling benefits. So let's move on to the pros and cons. Let's try and weigh this up. Final point before I do. We know that there are penalties for late or incorrect reporting or payments. So benefits in kind is an area that we really want to ensure we're comfortable with. HMRC are very hot on those penalties. So the nitty gritty then, let's have a look at the pros and cons of payrolling benefits. Pros, less paper. We've just heard from Dan about carbon footprint and being mindful of the world that we're living in. So payrolling benefits certainly helps with that. The key pro, personally, I find this the key benefit is that employees are taxed in real time for the benefit that they currently have. So, sake of argument, let's say I have a company car. And for ease of explanation, let's say this company car, the taxable benefit value is £12,000. Okay, we're talking luxury cars here in my example. As an employer, it would be lovely, wouldn't it, Caroline? In this example, what you would do essentially is add £1,000 to the individual's pay period. So you would increase their taxable pay each pay period by £1,000. Now, this is a notional pay element. We're not increasing people's salary. They won't get any extra earnings in their back pocket. We're simply increasing the taxable pay per pay period. So I'm paying the tax for that company car at the time I have the company car. We know with a P11D, I could have a company car in this current tax year. So from April last year through to March this year. My employer doesn't need to report that benefit to HMRC on a P11D until July. And we know that a tax code adjustment probably won't come through until October. So we're now talking a year and 7 months after me receiving that benefit, I would actually get charged the tax on it. So that's what would happen with the traditional P11D route. So payrolling, you pay for the tax in real time at the time I'm driving around in my luxury car. Another benefit is that means less inquiries to you and your teams following mid-year tax code adjustments. So from my point of view, the pros are definitely up there. They're outweighing the cons. However, it's only right that we do look at the cons of payrolling benefits. So even if you're payrolling, don't think you don't need to do your P11DB. You do. It's really imperative we remember this. It still requires a P11DB. So just as an overview, P11DB is what you send to HMRC to settle the Class 1A NICs on your P11D. So for any benefits that you have or that your clients have. A big con is that not all benefits can be payrolled, and I'll look at that a little bit later on. I'll come on to that next. And employers now need to register ahead of wanting to payroll. Again, I'll touch on that in a bit more detail next. So what can't be payrolled then? Living accommodation cannot be payrolled. So whether that is you or your clients providing a rental property, that's still living accommodation. Doesn't have to be employer owned. It needs to be employer provided accommodation. And beneficial loans, they also cannot be payrolled. The reason why this is a big con is obviously you could have 2 different processes running for all employees. So it could be that if you have someone who has a loan and a living accommodation and a car, 1, they're very lucky, but 2, the car can be payrolled, but the accommodation and the beneficial loan would still need to be reported on a P11D. The thing that springs to mind here is something's going to get missed. If everything's not being dealt with in the same manner, we're asking for human error to come along. Now, we've fed this back, the CIPP have fed this back to HMRC and said it needs to be one rule for everything. You're either in or you're out. We don't like doing one process for one benefit, another process for another. So it's something to be mindful of. And if any of your clients are looking at payrolling benefits, but you know the majority of the benefits they provide is living accommodation and beneficial loans, you can then have that conversation equipped and knowing that you cannot payroll those benefits. Okay, a benefits reminder then. So we know that you report your benefits to HMRC and to employees or your clients' employees by the 6th of February. So coming up to tax year end, we're all going to be mindful that we need to make sure our clients are telling us what benefits they've provided. But can anyone remember the health and social care levy that we played the hokey cokey with last year? It was in, it was out. Well, now they've shaken it all about and we have a blended rate for PSAs and for benefits in kind. So I know Caroline said that the slides will be up on your website for you to have a look at after the session, but please do make a note of these values. So your Class 1As for your BICs, we're using an employer's Class 1A value. The rate is 14.53%. Same for your Class 1Bs for anything covered on a PSA. That's 14.53% as well. However, as stated on the slide, any Class 1A payments that are due on termination payments or sporting testimonials for the current tax year we are in, the percentage paid was relevant to the time that the payment was made. So 15.05% on or before the 5th of November, 13.8% from the 6th of November onwards. Okay. When we're at this point next year, we're back to the rates that we know and love and feel super comfortable with. There's no blend, and it's just 13.8% for any benefits provided in 23-24. So I've covered kind of a plethora of information, and I'm sorry if I've given you a headache by doing so. The CIPP do run an e-learning module specifically around payrolling benefits, and this module is available to all of you on the call today and anyone else in your network. Now, it does count towards your CPD. You get 1 point for attending this e-learning module. And it's a 2-hour course, so it's quite convenient to be able to slip that into your day-to-day work. What I'll do once I've finished sharing my slides, I'll pop a link in the chat to see access of this training course and to see what's covered. Okay, I am leaving you with some homework. I'm very, very sorry, and I don't know whether you were told you'd get homework from attending this coffee morning, but we've spoken about payrolling ahead of the new tax year. So we know that you're going to be speaking to your clients a lot at the moment. Have that conversation and ask, if you know that they provide benefits, ask them, have you considered payrolling? If they haven't, talk to them about it, tell them the pros and cons. You've got all the information here. I've provided that with you today. If they do want to payroll, they need to register with HMRC before the start of the tax year in which they wish to payroll a benefit. Now, just be mindful, if someone is having the conversation with you and saying, come July, for example, I want to give everyone private medical health cover, they still need to register now. Even if they're not running it from the 6th of April, if they want to payroll anything at any point during the next tax year, they need to register before the start of the year. Okay, that's my piece of homework. Go away, have a chat with your clients. And that takes me to the end of my session. So thank you very much. I hope I'm okay for time. I'll stop sharing my screen and happy to take any questions.
Lovely. Well, I've got one for you. Trudy has put, am I right in thinking pensions are not reportable on a P11D?
Yes, that's correct. They're not reportable on a P11D.
Susan says, I like payrolling benefits. The pros far outweigh the cons.
Great.
Karen's put, that was very useful. Thank you. Laura, I've never done payroll, but found this really interesting. Amanda, how much would the 2-hour course be?
Okay, so let me have a look for you and I'll share the link. Okay, the 2-hour e-learning course is £199 plus VAT.
Excellent.
There you go. Just posted the link in the chat for you there.
Oh, lovely. I'll read it out in a minute. Shaheen said, thank you. That was very useful. Anita, really useful. We'll check out the course. Joe's put, very helpful. Thank you. Razik, excellent. Very informative.
Oh, great.
And then I've got your link, www.cipp.org.uk/training/payrolling-benefits-28.html.
What a mouthful.
Thank you for
Sorry,
that.
Caroline.
It's all right, don't worry about it. Sammy's going to send out all these links anyway, so that's fine. Carol's put, is there a reason things such as accommodation is not possible to payroll?
Yeah, I'm sure there is, but I don't know off the top of my head as to why. So I'll hold my hands up to that one. Unsure as to the reasons why. But Carol, let me find out. I'll stay on the call and I will find out for you.
All right, thank you. And then, yeah, just a few people saying thank you, well presented, very interesting, thank you, very helpful. So yeah, thank you very much, Sam.
Thank you, Sam. Yeah, I've got some of my staff as well coming on that too, on that course. So yeah, really good. And I know some of you here don't do payroll, but I think it's a really good second income stream really to the business too. So and just to draw your attention, well, we've got our payroll levels 1, 2 and 3 with which you can do with us, and then we've got a partnership with CIPP. If you want to go to take that further, then we can always signpost you towards their qualifications too.
They're all, can I just say they're also sponsoring the Payroll Professional of the Year again this year. They
Yes.
sponsored it last year and they're sponsoring it again this year. I've
Yeah.
seen that on social media this week.
No, very good, very good.
Yeah, right. I think that's everything, Samantha. So thank you very much for that.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. And then can I just say about the 50th anniversary awards leading on from the CIPP sponsoring the Payroll Professional. If you would like to nominate yourself or anybody else, the categories are Outstanding Achievement Award, Accountant of the Year, Bookkeeper of the Year, Innovation in Business Award, Payroll Professional of the Year, Student of the Year, and Tutor of the Year. And the presentation day will be Tuesday, the 20th of June, and the closing date is the 7th of April, which is Good Friday.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, no, we've got a huge amount of entries coming in, so it's really quite exciting. So yeah, please do get your entries in. So
excellent.
yeah.
Have you anything else, Sarah? 'Cause we're a little bit early.
No, I just wanted to have a shout out to our 2 new ambassadors that have just joined us recently. So Emma James and Helen Kemp. I've lost you now in the screen of faces. Oh no, I can see Helen waving. So I'd just like to welcome you on board. So that's absolutely fabulous that you've joining us. So that's good. And currently, breaking news. Well, Janet's in India at the moment, and she's having a fabulous week over there. Lots of really constructive meetings. She'll be on the next call, so I'm sure she'll be able to give updates to what's been happening out there at the next coffee morning, which would be really interesting.
15th of March, the next coffee morning.
Yeah, which coincides with the budget. So we shall be sitting here waiting to find out what news.
What they're changing. Those rates that Samantha's just given us from the 6th of November may possibly change on that day, is what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Going through them.
So no, that's it from me, but I'm grateful for all the comments that are coming in. I shall take those points with me tomorrow. So
yeah, you've got a lot of HMRC ones early on.
I have, yeah, I've been copying them all down, so I've got them all there. But yeah, no, other than that, I think we're all good from
right.
And that's 2 really, really useful speakers this morning.
Excellent, right. Well, at that, I think we'll call it a day. And we'll see you all in March, hopefully. 15th of March, 11 a.m.
Brilliant. Okay.
All right. Thank
Lovely
you.
to see you all. Take
Bye.
care. Bye.
Bye.